Hey there, it's Joy Foster, founder of TechPixies and the host of the Sparkle and Thrive podcast. And we're doing a quite unique podcast today. It's actually in the campervan with Sophie.
Howdy.
So I hope you enjoy it. It's a bit of our ramblings, but there's some fantastic messages in there. And you're in for a treat at the end. So make sure you stay all the way so you can hear the incredible voice that is Sophie Rose.
Hi, Joy.
Hey, Sophie.
Where are we?
We're in the campervan
Yeah, where's the campervan?
just outside of Glastonbury.
Oh, I like that you knew that. I didn't know if you were going to. I don't know where we are right now.
We aren't 100% sure where we are, but that's part of the journey.
Yeah.
The
That's
messy
very
middle.
Yeah, right. That's making me think of Mary Morrissey now. The how, the what, the why.
Mm-hmm. Why don't you sing that song for us?
Wow, just straight in with a request. You did that today, actually, in Glastonbury, and it worked out really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, I get shy about that. Being that kind of...
Let's talk about being shy,
Okay.
actually, because that's a great topic to talk about on podcast.
All right.
Because a lot of people, when they go to put themselves out there,
Mm-hmm.
feel really shy about it. And yet they have incredible talents that the world needs to see and hear. And you're one of those people. So you have an incredible voice. You have this incredible gift. And yet, pre-TechPixies, you sometimes shied away from sharing that gift with the world. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I'd say that shyness sort of manifested into a painful avoidance of lots of living my life.
Well, I think when we first talked about social media, you said it gave you a lot of anxiety.
Absolutely, yeah, that was the reason why that was the, me setting out to study social media, was because that was the main thing. I thought if I empowered myself with more knowledge around it, then hopefully that would balance out the anxiety, because I'd be able to look at it as from a business perspective, as opposed to looking at it of, I've posted a photo, I've only got, and counting the likes and then placing my worth in how many people saw it that time, and not understanding how it works when I'm posting, or so yeah.
So how did you find TechPixies then?
There's a friend of mine, his name's Abby. She did the boot camp. She did superhero boot camp, and I'd been talking to her about social media, and she was kind of showing me little things that she'd learnt from the boot camp. And I was like, oh yeah, I'd really just like someone else to do it. That was where my mindset was at first. I just want someone else to do it for me. I don't want to have to deal with social media. And then I was kind of like, and she was like, I really think you should check out TechPixies. I think there's a lot that you would get from that. And I was like, yeah, no, oh, whatever, yeah. She was like, I really think you should, this went on for probably a while. And then she was like, I think she even sent me there's a boot camp coming up. And I was like, oh, okay. I was really pessimistic about it, but I did one on course. So I think that helped as well. It's that kind of leaning in, but yeah. So I joined the boot camp.
So that's amazing. First of all, because we've been talking a lot about bringing the boot camp back, and we, for a while, you can grab the boot camp and do a self-paced version of it at techpixies.com/bootcamp. And actually, we've been talking about bringing it back because it's such a special thing to do. What was the turning point for you? I mean, I know that the boot camp was quite impactful for you, because I remember your first live. I feel like your first live was in a van, in the back of your van.
That wasn't the first. That was, that was one of them. That was me really, once I was in the community, in the VIP group, and was really leaning in then. It's just how encouraging that community is. And feeling like when you do lean in and you do a live, and it's not even just someone's like, oh yeah, awesome. It's actually you're amazing, like, I want to see more of you, I want to hear more of you, you know, and I feel the same about the women in there who do lives, you know, and it's like a pull to each other, like it's calling each other forward and calling each other out, and I just, yeah. But the first live I did, I remember, was you in the boot camp, and you had that sort of like 1:30, kind of like do it within, like keep it, you know, so that you kind of had like a bit of a roundness to it, and I was like, I remember it. Oh my goodness, it's really bizarre because that wasn't really even, that was a year ago. I was so shy. I remember I was like painfully shy and anxious, and yeah, I did it, and I was really conscious of how long I was taking, and I was like, okay, I think that's probably no longer than okay, bye, you know, like ran off out of it, and probably didn't look at it, and you know, and then I did a poem in there in the boot
yeah,
camp.
you did do a poem in the boot
camp. I think because I was inspired by things that you were saying. And yeah, so I did like a little poem in there.
Yeah, so for those of you listening, if you've done the self-paced version, we encourage you to go live onto your social media channels and test it out. You know, we always say you can delete it right afterwards, but it's that there's a lot of, well, this is a great example. So this last weekend before we went, so Sophie, for those of you, we sort of have skipped an intro here, but Sophie Rose is one of our TechPixies, and she's got this incredible, amazing voice, and really unique in our community as well, just in so many ways. And we've gone off to Glastonbury for one of the TechPixie team members' 40th birthday. And actually, it's quite funny because 2 team members have the same birthday on the same day, and we were supposed to go to Glastonbury in February to celebrate their birthdays, and then I got COVID, and so we couldn't go, so we decided to postpone it. So we ended up in Glastonbury during it's the May Day weekend, which is
Beltane,
which I'm learning a lot about, some really cool stuff that goes on in Glastonbury, and we so we've had an incredible time together, and but before we came out to Glastonbury, I couldn't go Saturday morning because I had the football final for the girls for football. So we couldn't go in Saturday morning because I was coaching the Donington Foxes Red Pandas, who they are the football team that I've been with for the last 4 years. And I was reflecting this morning on how 4 years ago when I started the journey with football, I didn't really want to do it. I was sort of doing it because my husband really likes football, and because my kids needed something active to do on the weekends. And I was actually at Amy Porterfield's Entrepreneur Experience in California, and she asked us to, you know, to go all in on 3 areas of our life, like the next year, really. And then, of course, we all came back. I came back from that trip, and we had the pandemic. So it was like the next 2.5 years you were stuck in your house. But it was really interesting because one of the things I said I was going to go all in on was my business, which I was already committed to, and my health and the football. So I went all in on the football. And so on the Saturday morning before we left for Glastonbury, we had the league final that we were in with the girls, and it was very exciting because they won the league final.
Yeah.
That was really, really exciting. But it came after some painful moments. So they lost in the semifinal for the Shield Cup when they scored 2 own goals, which, if you don't know what an own goal means, you basically score against yourself. So there were 7 goals scored in the match, and 5 of them were scored by us, and 2 of them were own goals. So we lost the match 4-3. And that was pretty devastating. And then we went to another tournament, and we made it into the Plate Cup, which is actually higher than the Shield Cup. And then we lost in the semifinal. And that was disappointing. But I think those moments that were disappointing were really important for them, because when we did finally go into the final, they really were pumped up and ready to go, and they really wanted to do it, and they were really excited about it, and they wanted to win, and they were ready to win, and they had the feeling of what it felt. They showed up really excited. But this is my point, and that's what I was going back to, and I know it's a long way there. But I said to the girls right before we played the match, I said, how are you girls feeling? And a bunch of them said nervous, and a bunch of them said excited. Sort of half-half. And I said, girls, it's important to understand that the feeling of excitement is the exact same feeling as this anxious, nervous feeling. And I said, so if you had to pick the more empowering feeling, what would it be? Like, what's the more empowering thought connected to this feeling? And sort of teasing, the girls said, nervous! And I said, no, it's excitement. It's excitement. That's the more empowering thought here. And it's such a lesson in life, doing a live video on social media. That was a long way around to this part of the story.
No, I love it.
But the doing a live on social media is very nerve-wracking the first time you do it. Your heart is pounding out of your chest. It's very scary. And actually the reality is that's the same thought as excited. It's the same thought as I'm discovering something new, I'm doing something new and exciting, and which thought is more empowering to you. And, the thing I love, Jennifer Allwood in her book, Fear is Not the Boss of You, she said, confidence comes from doing something, and realizing you didn't die. And I always say on the boot camp, like, you're not going to die doing a live. Like, it's not,
Totally.
It's not possible. So, and it's great because I think that brings a lot of people to that point where they do a live. And so at least when we do the boot camp, when we do a live boot camp where everyone's in the same group together and they're not doing it out to the wide world, they know they're in a protected space. And that helps get a lot of people across the line. But live video is extremely important for social media.
Yeah, I'm learning that. I mean, the lives are probably the best thing that I do now, because people really, really engage. And for me, I like authenticity is really important to me, and it's really important to me in music. And being able to show up as my authentic self is really important to me. I think it's also, if you have like some confidence barriers, it's very easy to edit yourself on social media. And you don't want to get down that rabbit hole of like editing yourself too far away from your authentic self. And I definitely did that a lot in previous years. So the lives are kind of a way of like breaking that open, and also just breaking out of any kind of like, I should be doing this, and I should, when you get too into that. And it's a really nice way to just break out a bit, shake it off, and that freeing feeling of, what, if I do a live and then I decide to take it down, I decide. That's not, I can do that. And there's a freedom in all of it when you realise that, that knowledge to social media it empowers you in a way that makes you realise that social media doesn't run you. Like, you run your social media.
Absolutely. And also figuring out how you're going to use it and figuring out what your voice is going to be. And that's the thing that I tell people. Just start posting. Just start doing lives. Just start talking. You will find your voice. And it's amazing to watch women. It's incredible to watch women on the boot camp like take off and embrace that, and then they run with it. And some people can do that without additional coaching and support. But some people need additional coaching and support, and they want additional coaching and support. They want to go all the way. And so we have people who move on to our VIP group coaching program, and they get that additional coaching and support. So going back to what you said before, when you were, nervous and anxious about using social media, was it the technical how to click by click, step by step that taught you and helped you overcome that fear and anxiety of social media, or was it something else?
Yeah, it was the actual content of the course was beginning, like that foundational knowledge for me was really helpful in being able to start to approach it as looking at metrics or looking at, being more analytical as opposed to like self-critical. But yeah, I think the huge part for me is all the mindset work, life coaching, your neuro coaching. I mean, your mentorship. It's been. Yeah, it's completely transformed. I mean, it's not even like, this has transformed my life. I've gotten myself I've worked really, really hard over the last, several years to come up through a lot of difficulties I've faced. And I've put in a lot of work for that, right? And then I reached this point where I think it just, TechPixies, and I hear this so much with a lot of us, and I love it, because it's like, it just came up, you just arrived at that right moment, you know. And that's totally what happened, like, 100%. And yeah, the mindset work, I was really ready for it, and that's been the golden key for me to breaking out, and still, you know, continuing to do so, starting to really break out of a lot of narratives that have been holding me back, and reshaping my life, which in the last year, you know, since joining. So when I joined TechPixies, I was on universal credit. I was a scholarship student. I was in LA when the pandemic hit. It was all a bit random. I flew back. I was supposed to be going away for a year, like on a working holiday visa to New Zealand, just kind of like, you know, I'd had a lot of therapy, and I'd gotten myself to a point where I wanted to just start a new chapter, and not do it sort of, where's the furthest place I could go from England? Oh, New Zealand. So that was where I was aiming. Pandemic hit, got as far as Los Angeles, ended up there for 3 months. That was a big learning curve. And then, yeah, ended up back in England. I'd given up my flat. I'd sold my car. I didn't have anywhere to live. Moved in with a family member, and started again from there. And I'm really grateful for that, because of everything I've learned.
You'd also been training to do some voiceover work.
Yeah, so I started to, I'd sort of, well, in Los Angeles, that was what my head was going, okay, well, that's maybe what I could do.
But is that because, and I mean, this is interesting, because we've never actually had this part of that conversation. Had you given up a dream?
No. Okay. LA gave me for some reason, me in LA gave me the permission that I needed to come back to England and go, okay, there is so much that you don't know. You got work to do. Go back, get sober, you know, get your head right. Like, you know, I came back with that kind of ambition to want to find my ways to doing that. And so, but yeah, I came back with that. And then voiceover, for me, it felt like, okay, well, this is something that I can do that has some industry crossovers. It is me using my voice in some form in order to be able to sustain myself and to fund my career, you know, and so that's what I started doing. I was doing it at home.
Fund your career in music.
I fund my music career,
Yeah.
And so that's I started that, and it was very, very, very slow, and it was all online. Everything was locked down, and then it was taking a very long time to kind of kick off. And I like people. I don't like working on my own, recording all day, and you have like headphones on, so you're like listening to your own voice all day, and you know, and like having to edit it and like really go in on it a lot. And I wasn't, you know, it just wasn't it wasn't a space that was inspiring, or you know, and it was just really stressful, because it wasn't helping me financially. And so I kind of went all in with TechPixies, like doing the work and really focusing in, and then I kind of went on my little TechPixie trip.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. So this is super cool. So there's a point where you posted in the group and you said, so Sophie's a VIP. She's in our group coaching program, and the group coaching program is incredibly supportive. Like the students in there, there's over 750 women in that group as of this recording, and they just are unbelievable, unbelievably supportive of each other. Just, you know, partners in believing all the way. You know, every single woman in that group believes in the power of the other women in that group.
It's incredible.
And that is what the focus is on, is, you know, helping people believe that they can do whatever it is that they want to do. And so Sophie said to me, you know, I think I want to do this little tour and it was because you wanted to discover your songs. Well, you actually had written 100 songs. Mm-hmm. At that point, and I think you've written 100 since, quite frankly.
Yeah, I probably have.
So she'd written 100 songs, and she's like, I need to pick which songs I'm going to put on my EP, which an EP is your
Yeah, so EP is a extended play, so it's longer. It's shorter than an album, longer than a single. Basically, an EP.
Yeah, so you're
5-track album.
Right. So wanting to actually start this music career, like.
Well, yeah, because I'd applied for funding and I found the funding application really hard. I think for me it was just I just was very sort of always felt like I was trying to start things up or get things going, and just nothing ever really seemed to work, and I'd just always kind of be felt like I was falling down a lot. But
so you posted in the group.
So I posted in the group. Well, because I was living in Yate, wasn't I? And I'd realised that I could actually use where I was living to start to generate some form of income. So I set up an Airbnb, and I just had the spare room on Airbnb for a while, and I thought it would be a really nice way for me to get back out. I was stuck in a hometown, a very uncomfortable comfort zone, and I thought, right, well, this is going to be a way for me to start to meet people from wherever they're coming from, and it was perfect for that. So it made me more brave again, and I was like being the host. So I had people renting a room, and then I sort of thought, I wonder what happened if I put the whole house on there. I'll just find out. And I put an ad up, and within 2 days, someone booked it for a month. And so
what am I going to do?
I was like, well, that's amazing. Find out where am I going to live? But yeah.
And that's when I said, post it in the group and just tell people, because that's the thing. In genuine honesty, I think anyone in the group, if they needed a place to go for any time period, a day, a week, a month, I mean, even longer, the homes would be open across the country to you.
Absolutely, yeah. We've got each other in that way.
It's just that kind of a community.
It's a sisterhood, in that way.
Yeah,
it's
you sort of used our place as a bit of a base.
Yeah.
And then you were out visiting different TechPixies.
Well, because I think I might have started to plan it, or I'd maybe started to plan the coming and staying with you bit, and then I'd seen this ad come up for doing a Stream for Mind charity. And so because mental health is very important to me, and I've been through my own mental health journey, I thought, well, I could do a fundraiser for Mind. So I started after seeing that, and my brain started going, I started doing it. So I did a 12-hour live stream on Facebook.
Would you ever have done that before?
No, exactly. And I think, part of me was like, well, it's a fundraiser, right? And because I did a funding application for music which got rejected, and I was, I know it, I'm not good at funding applications yet, up until now. But so I thought, well, I'm just going to have to figure this out, or figure out how to do my own fundraising. So I thought, well, if I do this for a mental health charity that I'm passionate, if I do it for a cause if it's linked to a cause, it makes sense. That's what I've learned for me. If it's linked to a greater cause, I can do it. If it's I thought, well, that's perfect, because actually then I can learn how to fundraise, and I can do it for something that is greater than, me. And it was like a series of alignments, and everything just sort of started to make sense. And I'd started planning this, and then I'd put it in the TechPixies group alongside the fact that I was kind of starting to set out into the world with nowhere to live. and I had Cass from the communities. She called me up, and we'd never spoke on a phone call before. She called me up, and she said, I'd love to talk to you about experiences that I've had with mental health. People started sharing things, which was so amazing, and I ended up interviewing her. I'd never interviewed anyone before, and I just was like, okay, well, I just and I turned up to hers with my recording equipment. So great that I did voiceover, for those reasons, and I set it up and filmed it, and I ended up filming and pre-recording these interviews with different people, and we had this 12-hour live stream fundraiser. I raised over 500. Yeah, I think it was around 590 or something in the end. Which it was amazing, and that was really super motivating to be able to kind of end last year on that note. Was absolutely incredible. And obviously then the beginning of this year is just been quite supercharged. So.
Yeah, so you found your voice on this trip. As you were out visiting people, staying at ours, moving around, you started to create some songs.
Yeah, so I think that was the first. So the week leading up to the mind stream, I booked a little Airbnb for myself just to, well, probably because I didn't have anywhere to live and I needed somewhere to go, and I wanted somewhere that was nice and just so I could think about and plan this stream. And I'd taken my guitar, of course, and this one evening I just started writing. This song just leapt out of me. It wasn't even like, right, I'm going to sit down and find a song now. It was just like, picked up the guitar, and I was just so inspired by TechPixies and by just, that's my happy place to even think about, is the level of support and encouragement and just genuine love. There's no ego. Like, it's just love, and it's just like a real desire for everyone to win, and so I think that was totally the feeling that sort went into that song. And I was like, okay, right, well, I'm just gonna go in TechPixies and do it as a little Christmas present. It was like a week before Christmas, and so I just went in and did it and sang and did that song, and that was really magic. And I think, now that song has been recorded professionally and is going on the EP.
It's a great song. It's a great song.
Pixies anthem.
I've had the privilege of getting to hear the songs before they're getting released, and they are absolutely amazing. And I just, I think when you have, there's a lot of things you need to get from A to Z, right? And I think what I've learned through the neurocoaching training and the dream builder training and the social media training that we've built over the years is that there's sort of three magical keys, and that is your, coaching and community and curriculum. And those three things are just absolutely magical when they come together in the right way. And, I always laugh that my mom, when I was younger, used to say, you can't do anything on your own. You always need people with you. And I sort of laugh at that now, because I think, well, that's the way I'm designed, but that's the way all humans are designed, where I always talk about Desmond Tutu and Ubuntu, which is people are people because of other people. And, the world we live in, most of the world we live in, lives by default and not by design. The language that they use is by default and not by design. The decisions that they make are not by default, not by design. And so, I think what's happened within the TechPixie community over the last 7 years, 'cause that's how long we've been running as of this recording, is that we have created a language within the community that is positive and supportive and encouraging. And it's not to say that we don't have moments where people are struggling and need support, because they do.
Of course.
But we teach people to see things from a different perspective. And, that sort of concept of the content of my life is the curriculum of my life. That's, and then I've got the coaching and support and the community to help me get through it. And
absolutely.
That's that combination. So I do love, that you leaned into the community to help kind of give you the headspace you needed to then be able to pick the songs that you picked, because you really didn't know what songs you were going to pick.
No, and I think out of the 100 that I had, I don't think
any of them.
No, I think they're all.
Yeah.
Well,
in fact, one of them you wrote at the studio.
Oh yes, yeah. Well, yeah, actually, yes, yeah. I think I'm stepping into my own life and my own power at the moment, and I think, and that's also, and I'm stepping into my own faith, and it's an accumulation. And TechPixies was just kind of like it was like I'd had all these kind of blocks of like these things that I'd kind of put together, and I'd been like, right, well, I've got them now, or like I've built these tools, so now what? And then you kind of were like, right, well, here you go. Like, here's the foundation, here's the plot, here's the bricks, here's the this, you build it, but here it all is, right? And I was like, awesome, well, I've got this tool bag with all this stuff, so I'll bring this. And then was able to, like, build my own, like, you know, my own house, right? And metaphorically.
But
so
actually,
far.
that's interesting you say that, because one of the things that we teach, the whole curriculum is based on something that I call the Foster Foundations for Social Media Success. And I always talk about it as, you know, you can build your house on sand or you can build your house on a rock. Mm-hmm. And, you know, obviously that's a parable in the Bible too. But this concept of when you build your house on the rock, if the storm comes, the house doesn't blow away. Whereas you build your house on sand and the storm comes and the house blows away.
Well, that's absolutely it. But for me, you know, that's been a long narrative for me, because for me growing up, I had a very unstable childhood from the gate. And I was a very emotionally unstable young adult. I'd only known emotional instability, so I spent.
So how do you build a foundation on that?
Exactly. So I had to learn how to dig out the foundations really and start like building my own. It is always a little bit those foundations. You know, that's consistent work that I do before everything else that I do. You know, you have to consistently keep that going. It's not, I don't have that like baseline level stability. I built that myself and I have to maintain that.
But I also think even people who've not come from a traumatic childhood or a traumatic background, when they start living consciously versus living unconsciously, right? So you're living by, like I said, like by design, but consciously, or by default, which is unconsciously. You do, it's something you work at for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah,
I was
totally
reflecting on this today. So it's April 2022 when we're recording that. Well, May 2022 when we're recording this, and it was April 2020 that I was a student of neurocoaching myself and did my first brain prime. So I have been doing brain primes now for 2 years, and that is something you do every day. And I've now been doing vision primes alongside my brain primes for about a year, and really started to understand how to shape those and create those through the additional training and coaching I've had. But I think conscious living is something that you do consciously, and when you are doing it consciously, it requires effort.
100%. Oh yeah, daily. Yeah. Or you slip back into habits and you're accountable for it, right? You know,
yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing is that you can, slipping back is a normal thing, right? It's totally normal to you know, I'm going to slip back into the default way of living, and because that there's a part of you that, well, there's the principle that you can't outlive your self-image, right? So until the new self-image is solidified in your head, and that's where it starts, first in the mind, then in form. So until that new image is solidified in your head, it's actually very difficult, if not impossible, to live out what you want to live out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so this goes back to that very first principle that we talked about in this podcast in general, which is going live on social media. It's like if you don't have the self-image that you're going to be okay doing a live on social media, or that it's a good thing for your business or a good thing for the world, more importantly, you know, I think this podcast is a good thing for the world.
Absolutely.
And I'm so glad that I did it. But I was really nervous to start it. And in fact, I delayed starting the podcast for 9 months.
It's great because I think that's the thing as well, is the thing alive at a podcast. Those are things that's the thing that will help you find and develop your voice, and that's the thing you're holding off from doing right? So that's the thing you actually need to be able to look back on and go, right?
Well, there you go. That's a perfect principle, because one of the things I talk about in the vision workshop is the fact that when you have the 3Ds, distraction, dissuasion, or DEFCON, you that's a sign you need to move forward.
Yes.
So if if you're about ready to send an invoice and then suddenly you're like, oh, I gotta clean the kitchen, or even chase an invoice, or or start a podcast, and then you're like, oh, there's a million podcasts out there, and who's gonna listen to me, and so that's dissuasion, where you talk yourself out of it. Like there's a million good podcasts out there anyway, so why should I create a podcast? Or DEF CON, which is where you just literally freeze and you just can't do it. And so interestingly enough, the training that I've had and the training that I give to students in the vision workshop and also in the TechPixies program, because they're sort of blended into one in some instances, but is the two things you do is you hold steady to the vision, that what would I love, and the second thing is you take action. And interestingly enough, for a lot of people, when it's hard to actually take a physical step forward, that's where I say to people, if you have even the inkling of a vision, and obviously if you've done the brain priming with us, just listening to that vision or listening to your brain prime, that is an action step forward. And interesting, one of the things I've learned is that will and willpower are very different. Like willpower, you're forcing yourself to do that run that you don't really want to do. Whereas will is sitting on your bed and imagining what it feels like to be on a run when the sun's coming up or when the sun's going down. Or, I remember this one time I went running and it was frozen all around me. And it was like running in an Iceland. It was the coolest place ever. All the trees were iced over and the water, there's mist coming off the water. And you can go there in your head. And then the irony is, once you've gone there in your head and you feel what it feels like to be on that path, you actually have the motivation to then do it.
Oh, well, because that's the energy that powers the willpower, right? So you're building like you just said, first in mind and then in form. So you're building the energy around the will before you then go out and use the willpower.
Yeah. And it should be easy. It should be easy for me to shut my eyes and see myself on some of my most amazing runs, or even runs I haven't been on yet that I can see in my head. And then, when the opportunity arises to go for a run, I'm much more likely to naturally want to go do it.
Totally.
And that's also why before you do something that you're nervous about, you should imagine it all working out. If you're going into an interview, you should imagine the interview went great, you had a fantastic time, you answered all the questions, you surprised them, you delighted them, you walk away with a great vibe. You get that feeling before you go into the interview. And then, you go into the interview, right?
So you exude that kind of energy as opposed to, I am very nervous. Yeah.
And that's what I said to the girls, going back to the football match on Saturday. I said to the girls, before we started, I got them in a circle. After I explained the difference between being excited and being nervous and how they're actually the same, you just have to choose the empowering thought. I also had them shut their eyes. And I said to them, I want you to take a deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth like a straw, and back up in through the nose, out through the mouth like a straw, because that changes your system. And then I said, okay, girls, I want you to imagine that, whatever position you play, that when the ball comes to you, you have that perfect shot. It goes straight into the net, or you pass to somebody, or you stop it, you block it, you kick it out. Whatever it is that you do, whatever your position is, because in football, they've all got different positions. Just want you to imagine it. And it was just amazing because they were there and they were they were fully engrossed in it. Like the other team's off doing their practice stuff and they're in a circle. These are 12-year-old girls, 11-year-old girls. Yeah. Some of them are 10 because we've got a young group of girls. 10, 11, and 12-year-old girls. Just imagining that perfect shot, that perfect pass, that perfect, and I got them into the vibration, that feeling of how it was going to feel. And they were so pumped up after that. And then I said, right, let's go play football.
Yes.
And this is the power of this, and the key is that you learn to imagine that it's just all worked out, that it's all going to be great. And it's all going to be absolutely fabulous. Even if, and this is the difference, even if the level of fact, right? At the level of fact, they had not played the football match yet. At the level of fact, they had lost 2 semifinals in the last 4 weeks. At the level of fact, they had made mistakes that lost those matches, right? But the truth is, and this is the real deal, and this is so much for you too, the truth is the power inside you is greater than any situation, circumstance, or condition. And that is exactly what happened, because they knew they had the power inside them. And they also knew what it was like to have, and I just said to them, play your heart out. That was the last thing I said to them. I said, you just play your heart out today, and whatever happens, you've given your all.
That's
you know,
that's so beautiful.
and and I think that goes, that goes with life. When you fully commit to.
Oh, complete. But it's the same with vocally. Like your voice, like my voice is, if I commit, if I'm like, even when we were up on the tour today, right, and you're like, sing, sing. I'm like, okay, fine, until I break, and I can feel myself going, well, you know what you want to sing, right, and so, and then all these thoughts are like, well, you're not going to hit that note, but there's a note in there that you probably don't, you haven't even warmed your voice up, blah, blah, and
we call those ants, automatic negative thoughts.
Right, the ants.
We teach TechPixies how to squash the ants.
Mm-hmm. And yes. And so yeah, all these thoughts came up, and then it was just like, oh my gosh, just be, like, just let it out, let it free, just let it be. And actually, if you're worrying, well, I'm not telling you this because you've told me this, but if you're worrying, just echoing you back, but if you're worrying about something, if you're worrying about going wrong, chances are you're gonna manifest that, right? Like, if you're
100%.
So if I'm worrying like, oh, I'm not gonna hit that note, I'm probably not gonna hit that note, and then I'll go, oh, see, I didn't hit that note.
Yep.
Confirmation bias.
Yep.
Oh, confirm. Oh, I can't sing. I'm a terrible.
That's how most people live life.
My ants when I've been doing my music brain prime, the ants that came out, and it was like I'd found an anthill when I wrote this one out, right? It was so weird. It was just like do 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 do, there they are, boom. But it was like, I can't sing. I am not a singer. I'm a terrible singer. I can't even sing. Everyone's going along with it, and these were all previous up until now. Don't listen, brain, or what would you say instead of don't listen? Anyway, but like. They were like brutal. It was literally, and I would even read them, and the growth part of my brain was like, oh my gosh. And the part of me that understands I can sing, I can sing well.
And what we teach in the neurocoaching side, I think is really important. So a situation causes thoughts and emotions. Those thoughts and emotions repeated over and over again create a belief. You make decisions out of that belief system. You either take action or you don't take action. A perfect example of that is you either sing or you don't sing, right?
Exactly.
And that is subconsciously driven. And until you rewrite that neural pathway that says, not only can I sing, but I'm a freaking good singer, and I deserve the world deserves to hear my voice.
Very similar to my brain prime, to be honest.
Yeah, the world deserves to hear my I can probably guess it, but the world deserves to hear my voice. This gift is mine to give to the world. It's that when you lean into that and then you own it, then you go to sing, and that's a totally different place you come from.
Oh yes, yeah, and that happened in the studio, and that goes back to you saying about how I wrote a song in the studio on that day, and that was, I think that because of a lot of the work that the mindset work that I've been doing, it's I keep saying, I'm breaking out of a cage, and that is the only way I can describe
Totally.
it. But lyrically, it's breaking out. Like, this song that we wrote is a pain point from years and years ago, and I'd written loads of things about that point, but nothing. I couldn't remember anything that I'd written. Nothing really stuck. Nothing was really actually me being, like, that healing wasn't in there, And in that one, it was just, I couldn't even tell you how we went about writing that song. It was just, I made the decision that that's what we were going to do that day. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And, and I was like, okay. And I was like, you know what, guys? Because you're in the studio and you've got that time and that's it. So the decisions that you're making are like, you can't dawdle and be like, well, let's try and write a song. Because if you're going to decide to write a song, that's what you're doing that day. And if it goes wrong, you've lost the day at the studio, right?
Those are ants.
Right. But it wouldn't go wrong. And it didn't, and everything's great. So anyway, and the EP's coming soon, and I'll let you know where. But so we did the song, and yeah, I said, right, I think we should move with this. I think I'd love to write a song with you guys if you're up for it. And they were like, yes, absolutely. And then this song, and then the next instant, I'm recording the vocals for this song. Like, I can't even tell you how it just was right. But I was just leaning into being present and letting myself be myself, and not allowing all the negative mindsets and all those negative thoughts start coming into that space. It was like, no thank you, I'm good. Like, I will be here.
And that takes time and effort and
Yes.
energy and coaching and support and
yeah.
people, and you got to do the work, but it does make a huge difference to have people to do it with.
Oh my gosh, I'm incredibly lucky for that, and very, 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 very blessed and grateful for that, and then you've been a big part of that, and I'm very grateful.
Well, let's talk about let's land the plane on this, because I think we've talked about a lot, but
yeah.
So we really started out talking about live video, and I'm passionate about live video being an excellent exercise for women in particular to gain confidence.
Absolutely.
Because you learn how to bring energy. You learn how to how to articulate what you want to say. You find your voice in that process, and it's an amazing tool to be able to use, and to be able to use powerfully and comfortably.
Yes.
Probably comfortably first, and then once you're comfortable with it, you can use it very powerfully to change lives, or to inspire people, and but also to discover who you are. Like, that's the other side of this: discover who you are. So we were in Glastonbury today, and we go into the Ted the Viking.
Ted the Viking.
Ted the Viking. This is a shout out to you, Ted. Ted the Viking has a shop in Glastonbury, and so we go into the shop, and we were drawn into the shop actually because of his instruments.
Yes.
So he's got these beautiful instruments. They're almost like a mini harp.
They're like harps, aren't they? They're called a lyre. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So Sophie's really intrigued by them. So he starts playing his, and then as we're leaving, now the Sophie wanted to just walk out the store and just take the card, and one day I will own one of these and play this on the stage, and it's going to be amazing. And I said she's going to play it in Glastonbury. So we had that conversation, but Sophie wanted to walk out the store, and I sort of looked at the guy and I said, you want to remember her.
Oh, I was at the door at that point. You were like, you remember her name.
Yeah, I said, remember her name. And then he said, oh, you got to come back. And now here's a guy who's had a lot of professional singers in his shop, right? Country singers and otherwise. But in his shop, because the music draws him in, right? So he's gotten to listen to a lot of people sing, a lot of people play. And he said, you got to come back in. You got to come back in. So he made you come back in. No, didn't make you. You chose. You came back in. And then one of the guitars he had there wasn't quite right for the tuning for your tuning. Yeah. So he said, what am I thinking? I've got another guitar under here.
I'm gonna be
so he
about
pulled out a mahogany guitar. This fantastic guitar.
Well, and even that one was in a different tuning, but it was a tuning that I could work with, but not sing any of my songs with, right?
Yeah.
But I could create
a song.
Yeah.
Which is what you did.
Right, yeah.
So she created this song on the spot, and Ted the Viking actually filmed it.
Yeah.
Live.
Yeah.
On Instagram.
Yeah.
And he put it in front of his 10,000 plus followers. And people were liking it right then and there. He's like, there's 100 people liking this live video while you were singing it. And she just did it. You just did it. And that's what I mean. Like, would you have done that pre-TechPixies?
No. And would I have done it if I walked in that shop on my own? People are people because of other people, and it takes a village. I think it's, I know, I probably, it is that.
But what a gift. What a gift. What a gift it was to...
Well, and if I hadn't have done all those lives, then no. Those lives have got me a very, very, very long way. Leaning in and doing lives, and, and to the point where I've been doing lives on my own pages now, and I do step away from the community in that way a bit more, just to go, okay, right, let me go onto my music pages and do lives. Let me go onto my own and do lives there and take up that space. Like, take up space as well, you know? Like, go on, do lives, be you, take up space and find your way with that. But there's no, you know, just give it a go. Like, you know, have a go. But
Totally worth it?
Oh, 100 billion%. My gosh, I could not have guessed or tried or, you know.
So I'm super excited about your future. And I do ask this question occasionally when I'm doing a podcast. And I ask people to think, project 10 years into the future.
10?
Yeah, 10. I want to know.
What's that, 2032?
2032. It's 2032.
CMAs, baby! We're going to be at...
Dolly Parton will still be there.
Yes, she will. Yes, she will. She'll look exactly the same. She'll be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, well, yeah, you're going to be my guest, aren't you?
Absolutely.
And the Grammys.
Yeah.
Country Music Awards. Nashville.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to be living in Nashville, I think. We'll see.
Or Las Vegas.
I think I'm going to move around, you know.
But I mean, like, CMA might be in Las Vegas in reality.
Oh, yeah, that might. Well, no, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole.
No, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. Anyway, so, okay, Country Music Awards, Grammys, I love it.
I want to be I want my own business as a musician. I want a sustainable career, and I want to have a audience that I have a synergetic connection, like relationship with.
So 10 years from now, you have.
I have that. I've built that. I've created it. I have an amazing team around me, like a family, you know. I'm living my career. I'm doing what I love, and I'm very, 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 very happy.
Any chance of an acapella to finish us off?
What would you like an acapella of?
Whatever you want to do it of.
I don't know where I'm going, but I know I'm going there. 'Cause the road, it seems clearer now, and it's all pointing there. I won't get stuck on the how, the what, the why, 'cause I got pixies at my side. Ooh.
Oh my gosh, that was fabulous. Well, Sophie, this has been a complete pleasure to spend some time with you, to go to a very sacred place for you.
It was amazing to be able to share that.
Yeah,
Share that with you.
that was amazing to experience that. And I just have to say, you know, we are super lucky to get to know you at the start of this journey. You know, because I feel like it's a very exciting journey that's about to happen. And, you know, this is where it's not about the end result of the journey.
Absolutely.
But it's about who you become in the process. And I think, you know, we're all privileged to get to know you on that journey.
Same about you, Joy.
Thanks for hanging out with me.
Thanks for having me.